All right, welcome to the Rebuild Procurement Podcast, the number one podcast in the world in procurement. I'm Tom Finn, bringing 15 years on the client side, procurement, finance, category management experience in small and large cap orgs.
And I'm Alan Veek, a procurement geek on the sell side of the street, and I've assembled a team of superhuman procurement professionals doing managed services at a company that we like to call Summit.
All right, Alan, so we're hopping into probably a shorter episode today, kind of back on the train of where we were before. This time, jump into just some things we've been reading. I think we'll keep it, pretty quick, pretty light. From my side, and I think your side too, we just have some AI stuff, and then a bit of an update on the Air India crash, given we dove deep into that before.
Yeah, and you're coming from a special secret location somewhere deep in the darkest jungles of Brazil.
My in-laws. Hence the worser camera, worser lighting, worser sound. So it'll be for a couple weeks. But yeah, so just to dive into this, Alan. So for me, I've been spending all my free time, not as much on Twitter and elsewhere, but essentially learning and trying to code. So you and I have riffed on some stuff offline. I've been working on a competitor to a SaaS and call it like consulting-ish platform, as well as like working with a buddy on essentially how to parse and move along engineering documents recently, which I think could be cool, right? But with that, it's kind of been where I've been spending most of my time. I think just as a comment to the crowd, anyone that hops on a computer right now should go learn and try to code something. I think that's the kind of how it was like, what was the, I don't even remember what it was, but I remember it was the Microsoft program. You can kind of use it. VBA is what came to mind, but it's not that.
Yeah, Visual Basic.
Is it Visual Basic? Okay, where you can kind of, it was like the no code before no code, right?
Macros in Excel, that sort of thing.
That kind of stuff. Idea. Everything could have a better interface now, like in an unbelievable way, and can do a lot of stuff. It could be, either done internally or send it to the world. But I mean, that's basically been where my time has been spent. But you have a take on this, Alan. You have a take on what's going to happen to the world of things I'm dabbling in.
Do I ever not have a take?
We should. Everyone should.
I always have a take, yeah.
Right or wrong.
It may not always be right, but yeah.
It doesn't need to be. It's a position.
What do they say? Strong opinions loosely held. That's the key to success in life. Strong opinions loosely held. Before we jump to my hot take, my strong take, though, I like what you said, which is you should jump on and you should build something using AI. But let's help our audience by kind of thinking through, okay, how do you do that? It's like, I want to be a writer. What should I write about? That's just, it's a common refrain but I don't have a topic for a book, or I want to start a business. I just don't know which business to start up. So how can we help our audience figure out what to do? You have done, I think, you're working on 3 apps. In addition to probably some
shows my ability to focus.
Well, listen, no, you got to spread your bets a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But so how did these come up? I can speak for one. In one instance, I said to Tom, "There's some change happening in the category management application space. We're losing one of our one of the big providers of some SaaS software for category management purposes is being acquired, which usually means it's going to go hide in the corner and die." So,
it's been absorbed for customers is what that's called.
That's exactly, which means it's going to die. All innovation is going to stop there. So I said, there's a huge blue ocean opportunity to build a category management app. So you've been coding that. So we did that just because it's from my experience, category management's the most interesting corner of procurement. I think it's the most strategic part of procurement. And there was only ever really this one company that I could find that provided some sort of an application for category managers, some technology for category managers to be able to assemble their strategic plans and understand the categories that they're managing. So, it's kind of gut instinct that said, "Hey, listen, let's build something there," and you coded something up.
Yeah, and essentially, I'll freestyle the process here. For finding opportunities, like a good place to start is just going on ChatGPT or any of them, Gemini, just even like a Google search if that's still where you feel comfortable. Just searching for the areas of X that need improvement, right? And then from there, you can go down this rabbit hole of okay, within procurement, you have like some things that will pop up and be like, oh, people always complain about the procure to pay process. People always complain about ability to get credit. People always complain about category management, things of that nature, policies, blah, blah, blah. And then what I think is cool about the whole idea of, it just sounds so, I already hate the term, but the whole vibe coding idea
Yeah.
is that you can kind of just go with the flow, right? You kind of like figure out something's interesting and you can go down that rabbit hole pretty quick and build up like a version of a product quite quickly. The easiest way for any non-coder, which I'm in that crowd, I'm kind of moving towards maybe like a bit of a coder, but the easiest way is it's a software, like an online software called Replit, Replit. I mean, you could essentially just prompt it like you would ChatGPT and out will pop something. The best way to do it is to ask ChatGPT for a prompt and something that's called a PRD, which is a product requirements document. So just ask for that, right? So you find out what the thing is that you want to build, ask ChatGPT to build you a prompt to tell an AI coder, and then also ask it for a PRD for the product. And then you can copy and paste that in. So from there, that essentially gives you like the layout of what it is that you're going to be using or going to be building. And you can really, it'll just code it for you. So you'll get like 70, 80% of the way there. Now the final 20, horrible, right? It is
Difficult.
ruthless. It's difficult and it takes a lot of time, but it's really like that can get you, I think, shockingly 70% of the way there.
Yeah, that's cool. So you love Replit. Have you tried or at least played around with Lovable yet?
No, I know they're a competitor. I used Cursor, which is like one you could use on your computer. But no, I've heard of Lovable, and there's one other one. Have you tried out Lovable, Alan?
No, I did not, but I sent it to someone on my team, Caitlin, who you know, and then I didn't hear from her for like 90 minutes, and she came back and she said, "I just created my first application."
No
So
way. Love that.
She loves Lovable. Yep, she was vibe coding.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's awesome, right? That gives you it just opens up so many areas of opportunity. But then eventually you get to like, all right, I want to do these things. You have to learn things called APIs, like find where they live. But it really is something that's just like, it just opens up the world of like opportunities. And even if you can't sell to the whole entire world, like a good way to think about it is how can I solve a problem for my company or for me alone? And then given that it kind of takes a while to get to 100% or to 90%, what I've realized is if you can get something really good that's usable for yourself, then it becomes interesting to other people. But if you're kind of just trying to create something for the world, that's where it gets a little difficult. And you can go down like this, this separate rabbit hole that's like, will lead you to nowhere because you never get done.
Yep. So Cursor, you've played around with Cursor as well?
Yeah. Yes, I played around with Cursor too.
And then is there another one? You said there was another competitor.
Yeah, it's kind of those. Yeah, there's another one. I can't think of the name. It's similar to Replit and Lovable.
Okay. Yep.
For Cursor's a little more. It's the one that all the coders would use. They just had this whole issue where they decided they kind of like started running out of money because really they're kind of like a software for your computer, and they were like linking up with the Claudes and the ChatGPTs and the Geminis, and they were kind of covering a lot of costs for some hardcore users because it is the coders platform. It's like an online terminal for people to code in, but it like does a lot for you. However, I have recognized that once you kind of get stuck with a Replit or Lovable, you move towards like maybe more a Cursor to kind of finalize something.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you can do a lot. You can do a lot of like very simple. Like if somebody wants to go create like a MyFitnessPal type thing today and like track your
Yeah.
calories, things like that. Like that's always a cool place to start before you're like, how can I fix category management?
Yeah, you offered up that just kind of look where there might be pain points or problems in your work life. So that's one area where you could go to look for ideas about what to code up. But I'd say certainly your hobbies, things that you like to do, things that you may be able to find a spot where, hey, it would be great if I had an application that did X, and then just go and build up X. And I think the stepwise process that you gave was right on, which is use your favorite LLM, whether that's Gemini or Claude or or ChatGPT, and ask it to create a product requirements document, and then use that product's requirement document in a Replit or a Cursor or a Lovable, and have it create the first 80% code. And then from there, you just say, I don't like this. I'd like this. I'd change this, make this green, make this blue. You just change, you kind of instruct the coding AI on what you'd like to see. And from there, that can kind of get you, I like what you said, get you to like the 80%. It gets you a workable web page, right, Tom?
It does. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Any web page, don't even ever try and bother doing that again. Just have it done in Replit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, but then I guess to get it to be some sort of a functional product that you might be able to sell or hand out to others, that's the hard part, right? That's where you got to mess with monkey with APIs. You got to figure out a payments backend. You got to figure out security. You got to figure out scalability. There's probably a whole bunch of stuff that makes that last 20%.
Companies care about security, Alan. That's one thing. Anybody that's like buying anything, it's one of the things on the checklist is like a SOC 2 or SOC 1 at least.
But maybe if you're just looking to do a MyFitnessPal, you're just looking to build something for yourself to use that you can use personally. Say like a wine tracker. You got a few bottles of wine in your basement.
Your own
Vivino. Kind of have something that tracks it. Yeah, your own Vivino, your own MyCellar tracker, any of those sorts of things. That could be kind of cool. But I like your advice, which is just go do it. Now, that last 20%, here's where my hot take comes in. Mm-hmm. That last 20% is interesting because I think this is where it takes some degree of somebody who understands architecture, somebody who understands security, somebody who understands how to build the back-end infrastructure behind some of these applications. I think this is going to be what the future of the IT department in most enterprises looks like. It's going to be one or a few people who are good architects and good all-purpose general IT support people who understand how to do that stuff. They're going to be basically the CTO. It's going to be a pretty small shop, and you're going to have enterprises that make their own code. You're not going to be buying SaaS software anymore. Now, this is, as with everything in procurement, this is going to be an evolution, not a revolution. SaaS is not going to die this year. It's not going to die in the next 5 years. It's probably not even going to die in the next 10 years. But in 10 years, it's probably going to be pretty unrecognizable through the evolutionary process of procurement. And I think there are a couple of factors that are pushing that. Certainly the biggest is the one we talked about, which is the ability to code up stuff in a custom fashion for yourself. The big knock on a lot of SaaS software is you end up buying and paying for 100 features, of which you're only really interested in 2 or 3 for your enterprise. And you got 97 features that you're paying for. It's much like the cable package that you used to get that, 97 channels you don't watch and you only get 1 to 3 that you have. So this notion of cable cutting, I think, is going to be very similar to what we see happen in SaaS software. So that's one of the biggest factors pushing this, is the fact that now enterprises can build their own software, bespoke software that really does the set of features and functions that they need to have done. But we shouldn't ignore the second half of what's going to drive this evolution and the death of SaaS software, which is SaaS companies are just greedy. They have gotten to be greedy. They've turned into sales machines that extract every last penny of value out of the enterprises that they purport to serve. So I'm reading a book right now called The SaaS Hole that is all about kind of how this industry has grown into a Frankensteinian monster that is consuming all the companies that they serve. And I was talking to a chief procurement officer within the last year who worked for one of the top 10 banks in the world, who said he was super frustrated with his SaaS profile, his SaaS category. all the software that they purchased to run the bank. Basically, he said in the last 10 years, there's been a margin shift where the SaaS companies have cannibalized all the bank's margin by just continuing to increase their price. And the lock-in that bank has with the SaaS software is such that they can't turn away from it. It's like I don't know what you guys use in your day job, Tom. We use Microsoft as our back-end platform. Could we switch to Google? Sure, we could. Is it a reality? Probably not. It's tough. It's a really tough thing for us to move from the basic email and kind of documents and file storage functionality of Microsoft to something like a Google. And that's what's happened to this CPO at this bank. He said, basically, we're locked into all the SaaS software that we use, and there's no way that our margins just continue to shrink because the SaaS software keeps getting more and more expensive. I think what's going to happen is that's going to reach a breaking point, and that bank is going to start shutting off different pieces of the SaaS software and building their own in-house with a very thin IT crew that basically uses this vibe coding, uses these various platforms that you see to build all the infrastructure that bank's going to need to run.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as there will always, the problem with SaaS software and things always need to be linked in through the IT departments. Like one of the main reasons is so everything stays connected too. So just with essentially what an API is, it just allows one software to talk to another software. As long as those maps are opened to be able to use, and you can do it, which you can, right? I can link in with Google Gemini or ChatGPT, or internally at a company, you can link in with SAP. As long as you can do that and those pathways are open, then you could do things on your own. So I very much see that as an opportunity. It may need to still sit. You'll have some core companies. Like I would envision the Salesforce or whatever still that main central database is. Maybe it'll look different. Maybe the margins will be different, kind of to your point, Alan. Because if you're just being a database for me, I could do that elsewhere. Maybe I do that elsewhere. But yeah, I think one of the really cool things I imagine over the next few years is that folks will just start doing these things on their own because they're going to get so easy, right? 1 year ago, I couldn't code anything. I knew HTML stuff and understood the general idea, but I couldn't. I've wanted to do things forever. I don't know how many Python books and courses I read and picked up.
Me too.
Yeah, I think everyone has at least 3 in their whatever those online platforms are for learning. Probably 3 in 3 different ones. But yeah, I think that also. So I can see this. I wonder if this is going to play out in a few different ways, Alan. So to your point, right today we have some main players in SaaS. Those are going to go out to you and I, right, within our companies. We'll be doing it on our own. I've heard the similar pitch for media. That okay, yeah, you'll still have your big box office movies. However, some of these things will kind of be as you choose the path forward, then it does it for you. Similar with video games, right? Why does everyone have to play the same Grand Theft Auto or whatever? Pick your game when it could just kind of be decided along the way, and yours could be different than everyone else's. There's also the talk about that happening within people's jobs, right? So just the people, the business of people, just individuals like ourselves or others. Where does the company really need to have a giant finance, procurement, engineering department, or can it have essentially contractors that do things for them? I'm wondering how dispersed this will end up being. Right, Uber kind of did it with with folks' time, and I think that ended up being not very good. I don't know if this will be very good either, but I wonder if it's going to go that route.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of. That's a lot of good questions you raised there. So it sounds like you were hinting at the gig economy a bit more, where a company becomes a loose confederation of gig workers helping each other out, like the Fiverr does in the marketing space.
Yeah, but maybe Upwork. Even more. I mean, gigs might be a little bit different. Maybe they're kind of contracts, right? Maybe they're not necessarily specific gigs where it's I need you for 2 hours. Maybe it still is some version of certainty, right? Europe has yearly contracts, 2-year contracts, 6-month contracts. Just curious if that will make its way into the US. If the long-term need isn't seen, if agents are doing this and people are doing that, and what's going to play out. This is all just riffing on this, right? On this, I just think there's a thread that may be good to follow for folks and like to dig in on their own of like, all right, if this disruption will happen within media, and we see it happening within SaaS, what will happen with the company? What will companies turn into?
The corporate structure itself. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it could be fascinating. We'll see how it plays out, but I think it's worthwhile just to dive in more over the coming 6 months. But yeah, probably the next year we should know more.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, I think the more that we talk about this, the more that we share it with the folks who listen to the pod, I think that positions you with some knowledge, which is power, to take control of your own career and figure out the direction the world's going. Again, I think this stuff is very much evolutionary. It's not revolutionary, so it's not going to change overnight. It's going to be decades in the making. But as with most things in life, you blink and a decade's gone, and you're like, "Wow, look, the whole world's changed." So I think it's good to stay abreast of this.
For certain.
Cool. All right. How about a quick update on Air India? So the last significant podcast that we did a few weeks back, we did one of the episodes of how it's sourced, and we talked about the sourcing of the black box. And the impetus to do that was the big Air India crash that happened in India. And since we released that podcast, they've grabbed a hold of the black box and they pulled out 4 or 5 significant findings from the black box as to what may have caused the crash. Did you follow any of this, Tom?
Only high level. Okay. So it's better if you go into it, Alan, than my little high level commentary.
Yeah, so the first thing is they found that there was this manual fuel switch that had been switched off. So think about that. They cut off fuel to the engines. So that's why they lost. That's how they lost their 2 engines. They can only be moved manually, and so there's this. The report findings said that there was a deliberate manual intervention. So it couldn't have been done accidentally, which is very, very strange. So both engines shut off, and then when the fuel switch was returned to the on position again, only one of the engines came back, and that was not enough to provide the lift required to get the airplane high enough. A second big factor that could be heard in the voice recording is that there was some dissent among the pilots. So one who thought that the switch was still on, one that thought it was off, and some argument about kind of what happened. But there wasn't necessarily enough information from the voice recorder to figure out whether it was a mechanical fault or pilot error. So, like this, it raises this big third point, which is, should you even be able to turn the fuel off like that? Should there be something that prevents that override, so that if you had a pilot that was suicidal, a pilot that had some emotional issues, a pilot that was looking to create a terroristic incident, should there be something maybe a little bit more autopilot-y that wouldn't allow that to happen while you're flying? Don't necessarily know. So that's some of the early returns coming out of the Air India crash. I have a colleague of mine who's from India who works with the team. He actually helps out with the pod here, and he was already willing to go kind of into some of the conspiracy theory land, saying, well, it could be, you never know, it could be that maybe there was an issue with one of the engines and Boeing's doing a little bit of CYA, saying that it was a fuel issue, not an engine issue. But I think that by the very nature of the black box, this sort of information, these facts will become known, and we'll know who was at fault and what caused it. But right now, that's the early returns.
Yeah, and the government probably has that, right? It doesn't go directly to the manufacturer, right? That's like who finds it. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I didn't realize about the black box was that it's also all like the parts, and like it's kind of the plane talks to it and it saves that.
Yes.
It's not like I had always envisioned, you hear what the pilot said and you hear what's going on in the cockpit, but it's more than that. Is that mic, and then it's also all the feeding of the data.
FDR.
Yeah, everything that goes into the plane and how it's running essentially, or not running, and the internal issues that it has also get fed into there and saved.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you listen to our episode, we talk about the CVR, the cockpit voice recorder, and that's all very much kind of a recording of what's taking place. But in the background, I think the real engine of the machine is the FDR, the flight data recorder, and we talked about how that went from collecting, tens and dozens of pieces of information from the plane itself, all the way up to now thousands every second.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I think that a lot of the advanced technology in the black box is sending data to the cloud. So you think about planes sending stuff through Starlink, perhaps, that can go directly in real time to some, either, like you said, either a government or to an entity like the manufacturer of the black box that becomes a third-party provider of an analysis of what's going on a plane. But you could envision a day where if two conditions were true, if you were flying at altitude and somebody hit the manual fuel cutoff switch, that could alert something immediately that would trigger, an alert at almost every level of wherever they're looking at the data to say, hey, what's going on there? So, I think that we tend to advance in all fields, but certainly in the field of aviation, one crash at a time. It's unfortunate to say that, but we learn so much from each mistake that we make. Failure is the greatest teacher. That I think that the chances of us continuing to drive incredible advancements in the safety of the airline industry is just, it's astronomical.
Yeah, and unfortunately, tragedy is usually what moves things along too, right? Like you get in this position where you don't want something to happen again. Therefore, folks that maybe were pushing against change are either receptive or at least will bow down to it to allow it, given that it won't so that it wouldn't happen again.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Dig it. Well, glad we were able to get back together again, Tommy.
This is the longest time we haven't talked, Alan.
I know. Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise.
We'll figure out our cadence. We're moving through all the seasons for the first time. This is our first summer podcast season, so we just got to figure out the right cadence. But on behalf of your humble hosts here at the Rebuild Procurement Podcast, we are Tommy Finn, the guy who puts the fin in finance down in Brazil, and your OG in procurement back in boring Pittsburgh. I'm Alan Veek, hoping you, our listener, will make this a powerful and productive week in procurement. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Show me, and you won't hear the word rebuild.